Real quickly before we begin, I want to thank this video's sponsor, CarMarshal.com. CarMarshal.com can save you lots of money on buying used or new vehicles, cars, trucks, school buses. If you want to save money, I'll have a link in the description down below. I know I'm going to.
Cops caught running black market gun trade using badges to sell illegal guns to criminals. 2 officers were caught illegally selling more than 100 off-roster firearms reserved for police and military, several of which were purchased by convicted felons. By Rachel Blevins, March 27, 2018. Gardena, CA, 2 police officers have been indicted by a federal grand jury after they were caught illegally selling more than 100 firearms that the department deemed unsafe for the public, all while using their badges in an attempt to cover up their crimes. The firearms sales took place between 2015 and 2017, and several of the buyers were convicted felons. Detective Carlos Miguel Fernandez, 42, and Officer Edward Yasushiro Arreo, 47, were charged with a combined 5 felony counts that included engaging in the business of dealing in firearms without a license and lying about it. The men were able to purchase off-roster firearms that are supposed to be reserved for police or military because of their status as police officers. They were then caught illegally selling those guns to the public, which included straw buyers who purchased the firearms for convicted felons who had been banned from buying guns. As a police detective, Fernandez had no excuse for selling guns without a license, and he should have known that if he was selling firearms to a straw buyer, it was extremely likely that they would end up in the hands of convicted felons who could not purchase the guns legally. The officers made no attempt to hide the fact that they were selling firearms, and they used Instagram to advertise their illegal activities. Fernandez used his personal account, the 38 Superman, and both officers used Ronin Tactical Group's account, which was run by Arreo. Although the group did have a federal firearms license, Arreo used the account to illegally sell off-roster firearms that he obtained as an officer. The Los Angeles Times noted that this move by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives marks its largest attempt to curtail the abuse of special privileges afforded police officers in purchasing firearms. Both Fernandez and Arreo have been with the department for 17 years, and they have now been placed on administrative leave. They pleaded not guilty to the charges at their arraignment, and their next court appearance is scheduled for April 3. In response to the indictment, Gardena Police Chief Ed Medrano said he is deeply concerned about the officers' actions. This type of conduct is inconsistent with our organizational values and the ethics of our profession and will not be tolerated by the Gardena Police Department, he said. This case comes 2 weeks after Pasadena Police Lieutenant Vascon Gordikian, 48, who was formerly the department's spokesperson, was indicted on federal charges of selling more than 100 guns without a license, making false statements to the ATF and possessing unregistered firearms. He is also accused of using his status as a police officer to obtain off-roster firearms that he then sold for profit. After more than 1 year on paid administrative leave, Gordikian was finally placed on leave without pay this month after he was indicted. He now faces up to 35 years in federal prison. As the Free Thought Project has reported, many police departments sell the guns they have seized from individuals, and in the state of Washington alone, more than a dozen of the guns sold by law enforcement since 2010 ended up in new crimes. The departments routinely resell firearms, and they do so at cheap prices, ensuring that they will continue to receive revenue in return for the items they obtained for free. As an investigation reported by the Associated Press noted, while a new AR-15 costs between $650 and $950 online, the Thurston County Narcotics Task Force auctioned 2 of the firearms for $250 and $370 each. Whether police are allowed to resell firearms they have stolen from the public, or they are using their privilege as officers to sell firearms that the state has deemed illegal for the public, the fact is that in every place where police are given extraordinary power, corruption is sure to follow.
Tonight, 2 Gardena police officers are facing federal charges for illegally selling more than 100 firearms to people, including a convicted felon. NBC4's Jane Yamamoto is live for us. She's outside the Gardena Police Department. Jane?
Well, Chuck, the 2 Gardena police officers were arrested last Friday. The Gardena police chief says both officers were immediately put on administrative leave. And tonight we are learning more from the U.S. Attorney's Office how social media played a role in the alleged gun-selling scheme. This Instagram page, the 38 Superman, now private. Federal authorities say 2 Gardena police officers used social media to sell mostly Colt .38 caliber handguns, firearms legally bought by law enforcement officers, not available to the general public. The indictment alleges at least 100 weapons sold to people who weren't legally allowed to own them.
I'm shocked. Longtime
Gardena resident Richard Weeks says he holds Gardena police in high regard, keeping his neighborhood safe, constantly patrolling the area.
It blows me away that anybody from Gardena PD would even consider doing that.
The Instagram account belongs to 42-year-old Gardena police officer Carlos Miguel Fernandez, seen here in a department newsletter. He and 47-year-old Gardena police detective Edward Yashiro Ario are named in this 5-count federal indictment, alleging the officers worked together operating a business selling firearms without a license. Both defendants, 17-year veterans of the Gardena police force. The Gardena police chief says his department is fully cooperating with ATF. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is investigating the case. And the 2 officers set to be arraigned in federal court April 3rd. If convicted on all charges, they face between 5 to 10 years in prison. Live in Gardena, Jane Yamamoto, NBC4 News.
Hey, Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also, too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.